All right, let's dive right into this. Welcome back to The Explainer. Today we're tackling a massive, sometimes intimidating frontier for independent authors, audiobooks. For a long time, putting out an audiobook was kind of seen as this luxury, right? Like a vanity project if you had some spare cash laying around. But as we're going to see today, stepping into the audio space is actually an absolutely crucial, multi-format business decision. It's a strategic crossroads that can literally change your entire publishing infrastructure.
Okay, right off the bat, here's a core philosophy you've got to adopt immediately. An audiobook is not simply your manuscript read aloud. It is a performance product. Really let that sink in for a second. Tone, pacing, vocal stamina, sound engineering, the whole shebang shapes the listener's experience. If you're going into this thinking, hey, I'm just going to read my book into my laptop mic, scratch that. You need an immediate mindset shift. Done well, an audiobook creates this incredibly deep connection with your reader. Done poorly, it can seriously ding your credibility.
So, here is our roadmap for today. We're going to cover the audiobook opportunity, look at Path 1, self-narration, and Path 2, hiring a pro. After that, we'll dive into distribution strategies, and we'll wrap up with the reality of long-tail revenue. All right, Section 1, the audiobook opportunity. So why even bother with this format? The biggest takeaway here is that expanding your formats isn't about ego. It's strictly about market access. Think about it. So many consumers today exclusively read via audio. They're listening on their commutes, at the gym, or, while folding laundry. If you're not in audio, you are literally invisible to that entire demographic. Plus, audiobooks create a brand new revenue stream. They massively expand accessibility for visually impaired readers, and honestly, they signal to the market that you're a serious, established author. Having an audiobook gives your brand unquestionable legitimacy.
Moving on to Section 2, Path 1, self-narration.
Now, doing it yourself is incredibly popular, especially if you're writing a memoir or nonfiction where your unique voice is actually the selling point. But look, enthusiasm alone isn't going to cut it. The technical requirements for a professional home recording studio are pretty strict. You absolutely need sound treatments to block out the neighbor's dog or traffic, a pro-grade microphone, a proper audio interface, and dedicated recording and editing software. And it doesn't stop at the gear. You have to prep your manuscript too. Converting your print book to an audiobook script takes 3 essential steps. Finalizing all your structural edits, stripping out any complex visual formatting or hyperlinks, and running a flawless proofread so you don't stumble over typos while recording. Because trust me, platforms will flat out reject your files if your noise floor and delivery aren't absolutely perfect.
And speaking of doing it yourself, here's a number that surprises almost every single author. 2.5 to 3. That is the multiplier for your time. For every 1 hour of finished audio you produce, you should expect to spend 2 to 3 hours of real-time work. That includes reading, flubbing a line, doing retakes, and meticulously editing those tracks. So if you've got a 10-hour audiobook, you are staring down the barrel of roughly 30 hours of intense, focused labor.
Which brings us to Section 3, Path 2, hiring a professional narrator. If that DIY route sounds absolutely exhausting, you'll probably want to tap into the professional marketplace. When you jump on platforms like ACX or Findaway Voices, you're going to get hit with some industry jargon right away. The most crucial term to wrap your head around is the finished hour. See, narrators don't charge by the day or by the word. They charge per finished hour of audio. That means the rate they quote you covers the final, fully edited, mastered product that the listener actually hears. Let's break down how this actually builds your production budget. As a solid rule of thumb, a 60,000-word manuscript translates to roughly 6 to 7 finished hours of audio. So let's say a pro narrator charges $250 per finished hour. You simply multiply that $250 by 7 to get your baseline production budget. Pretty straightforward, right? This makes the whole abstract idea of audio production completely concrete, so you can lock in your finances before you ever even post auditions.
At the end of the day, the decision between self-narration and hiring a pro basically boils down to a choice of resources. Ask yourself, are you going to spend your time or are you going to spend your financial capital? Self-narration is super high effort and technically demanding. Hiring a pro requires an upfront financial budget, for sure, but it guarantees high efficiency, performance polish, and those strict engineering standards that'll just sail right through platform quality checks.
Okay, let's pivot to Section 4, distribution strategies. So how does your audiobook actually find its way to listeners' ears? You basically have 2 main pathways, and they look really similar to the ebook strategies we've talked about before. You can go exclusive, which usually means locking into the Audible and ACX ecosystem. This gets you a higher royalty percentage on Audible sales, but your distribution is totally restricted to their platform. Or you can choose wide distribution through an aggregator like Findaway Voices. Going wide means you take a lower royalty rate on Audible, but you unlock access to dozens of other platforms, Apple, Kobo, and those incredibly important library lending systems. Now, if you do decide to go wide, remember this golden rule: format equals identity. A wide audiobook requires its own unique ISBN. And here's the absolute best part regarding the financial steps for registering this in Canada. Your cost is literally $0. That's the incredible Canadian advantage. You just register your publisher imprint in the Canadian ISBN Service System, or CISS, through Library and Archives Canada. Bam! You can generate a free, dedicated ISBN for your audiobook format. It costs you absolutely nothing but a little administrative discipline.
Finally, Section 5, the reality of long-tail revenue.
It's time to ground ourselves in some financial realities here. When you launch an audiobook, you really need to adjust your expectations. Because pricing is often dictated by platform policies and subscription models, things like Audible credits or library digital lending. Audio revenue is rarely this instant, overnight windfall. Instead, it generates a slower, much steadier income over the years. It's the definition of long-tail revenue. It compounds alongside your print and ebook formats, diversifying your income and basically bulletproofing your business.
So, let's tie this all together into a simple, actionable workflow you can actually use. Step 1. Finalize your manuscript so you've got a perfectly clean script ready for narration. Step 2. Make that strategic choice: DIY self-narration or hiring a pro. Step 3. Calculate your budget based on finished hours. Step 4. Secure your technical environment or hire your talent, and remember to run a thorough review of your final files to check those decibel levels and noise floors before submitting. And Step 5. Choose your distribution strategy and assign your unique audiobook ISBN. Check those boxes and you won't miss a beat. I want to leave you with this final, kind of provocative thought. Producing an audiobook is a ton of work. But ask yourself, does your multi-format strategy signal the seriousness of a long-term publishing business? Because honestly, adding an audiobook to your catalog isn't just about chasing a few extra royalties. It's about building compounding visibility, expanding your accessibility, and proving to readers and the whole industry that you aren't just uploading a file online. You are operating a sustainable, professional publishing infrastructure. Thanks so much for joining me on this explainer, and I'll catch you on the next one.